Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing all right. One thing that that's come about from the last couple of videos I've made, where I talked about, say, pain and loss of the past. Is it better to be longing to be in a relationship, to be with someone? You're lonely because you have nobody, or during a relationship, you're lonely then, which I think is I think personally is a lot worse, because I'm sure most of us have been in the position of longing, wanting, and being a little optimistic, even at the beginning, while you're in it, and when you're with somebody where it's not the right person and the relationship is awful. You see the reality of it and you feel awful. So there's nothing quite like being with the wrong person and being lonely, because you shouldn't be. It really feels like being in the wrong place. You don't feel odd. You're not trying to work it out. That's the reality of it. And the other one is the loss afterwards. Tell me if anything's distorted with the audio. Can you guys hear me? Okay, mic is blown out. How's that, guys? Is that better? Okay, audio is awful. All right, let me take a look. How's that? Let me know if too much bass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good now. Good. Loud enough you can hear me. Clear. Okay. That was weird. All right. That's fine then. All right, let me repeat. Last couple of videos talking about the pain of before, during, and after. Before, there's always, and going over the same points, but give time for people to start asking questions. When I was asking, there's a pain, there's not really a pain, but there's a longing to be with someone, like you're lonely, but there might be an optimism. When you're with someone that you know is wrong, it feels like you know it's wrong. You're not thinking it could be something else. You're living the reality. You're living the reality of something that's nothing like what you want. And then afterwards, that's the weird one that a lot of people experience, is you miss something that you either didn't want, but you're thinking now because of your fantasy. You're thinking of the good times. It's almost like your fantasies are making you think like, oh, it really was good. Oh, I can't remember the bad times. What came out of it, though, was how many guys, because I posed a question in the last few videos, how many guys, even if they had kids with a woman, would have actually turned the clock back and not gotten married in the first place. And it was surprising to me. I thought maybe there might be one, maybe none. There was quite a number of guys that they said they love their son, their daughter, but if they could go back in time, they would rather have not had that relationship. And that says to me that the degree of pain because of their ex. And they realize they wouldn't have had their great child if they didn't meet this person, but it would have been better than that mental anchor dragging behind them. That's a big thing. That really surprised me because, I know no one's like me or you. We're all individual, and it's easy to kind of theoretically say, well, if I was in this position, I'd do this. You always go to the most noble thing. If I had $1 million, I'd do this. Or if, I won the lottery, it wouldn't change me. Or if I didn't have this obstacle, I would be super fit and have abs and make $1 million. People always push their values to the extreme when they're not faced with it. But it surprised me that the father who has the daughter or the son, they have it. They would rather not have them there despite loving them. It would break their heart, but it's nothing like what happened to them. That was really interesting. I was talking to a friend, Karu, last night, where he said, well, yeah, because how much of your son or your daughter do you really have when you only see them once a week? When it's really only how much your ex gives it to you. It's kind of like drip feeding you, here you go, like giving you a bit of a carrot and taking it away. It's like a cruel nightmare. And the child's almost like a small best friend almost. It's a really weird dynamic. I can only imagine because, I've never been in that situation. But anyway. Love is just a fantasy. That's what some say. But again, it's kind of glib to say it when you're far from it. When you're not involved with it in love or pain, or not in a situation that someone has to deal with. It's easy when you're free from it to say, oh, just do this. It's similar to sometimes when a lot of guys say watch sport, they watch football or basketball, and they'll say, oh, just kick the goal. What were you doing? If it was me, I would have just done A, B, and C. It was so easy. Couldn't you see it? But when you're actually in that situation, when you're dealing with that fast-moving chess game, your tiredness, it's a lot different. Anyway, let's get some questions going. It makes me think these days we're in lockdown at the moment. As time goes on, not just people kind of feel down, okay, now we can't go out, people can't date, people don't get together, people can't even see friends, people can't touch. The lack of touch, what it's actually going to do to the human animal out there. Because it's all well and good to say, I don't want to have relationships, but you're still around people. You can put your arm around your best friend. You can hook up with people. There's these transient relationships. You're touching and going. You're keeping yourself safe. But now where there's no actual human contact, there's not even a person in front of you. And aside from talking in the mirror or seeing a reflection of yourself, which is a weird distortion, you're not really talking to anyone. I wonder what that's going to do to people. Question from Benjamin. Who do you think would be the best people to discuss, debate the topics covered here and on similar YouTube sites on a popular podcast like Joe Rogan and Sam Harris? I think the reason why Joe Rogan's one was popular, still is that he gets different points of views, different subjects. He's not someone that's a personality that you're going on the show to debate. And I think that's why people find it comfortable. He's like a neutral arbiter. He's just someone that keeps the conversation going, and it's all about the person talking. So it's not a debate. That's what made Joe Rogan successful, I think. Whereas other people, if you're going to have a conversation with Sam Harris, it's going to be a parry and thrust. Now he might, granted, I like Sam Harris. He tends not to be combative. Whereas someone like, is it Glenn Shapiro? There's a few other people where you can kind of see they're going to be combative. It's really going to be a debate. They want to win. I'm not a fan of those. And I think the people I talk to, they're not fans of them either. And it's really evident where the people you can have a conversation with, you get to find out who they like watching, what material they like watching. And if they like watching debates and other people get decimated, it's like your favorite, you like watching your football team win and destroy somebody else. It's very different from learning from different points of view. So in terms of a show, I think it need to be that structure where it'd always need to be a live and let live discussion, but not a debate to destroy people. Because if you're intelligent enough, you have a conversation between even opposing views. The person that's got the irrational view will expose themselves as being irrational, as being a loudmouth, which on Joe Rogan a lot of times you see the people that don't let him talk. You see the people that talk nonsense. So that's why he's popular, despite what you might think of his style or personality. Mikhail says, "Do people around you know about your channel and what do they think?" Not my family, because I know them. They've got their own predilections. I already debate enough about them in opposition to a lot of this stuff, and I don't. Not that I debate, but when the topics come up, if we're watching something on TV, my point of view is usually removed from them, or in a lot of cases diametrically opposed, and straight away it's you're a misogynist simply because I call someone an asshole because they are. It's not because they're a female, but it's something typical. And so no, I'm sort of switched on enough to know who can rationally accept me for me, and not try and I don't want to have a debate. So there are people in my personal life. There are a few friends that know, people that over time I know I can trust with this, and so far it's been fine. But there's people in my immediate family I would not tell. My brother knows, yeah, in my immediate family. But again, there's a very grounding, solid, immovable trust I have with him. I've known him my whole life. Rob Noxious says, only takes one borderline personality disorder to send your life off the rails, just like theirs is. That's true. Rob Noxious says, love my kids, wouldn't send them back, but definitely regret how I got some of them. That's the mental anguish, isn't it? I know I went through that when I love my father, but I know that my mother tolerated a lot because he drank a lot when I was very young. And rationally, you wouldn't have blamed my mother for leaving him the way he was. He just wasn't there. He was a ghost walking. And it was really hard on her, objectively speaking, if I was in that situation and someone else was like a drunk, a drug addict or whatever. And at the same time, I'm thinking, and say by the time I was a teenager, he stopped drinking, which was great. But I went through that when I was a child with him, like a father who wasn't there. She went through a husband who wasn't there. And there's that mental tussle. Yeah, I'm glad my father got over it and I had a great life afterwards, loved my dad. But if my mother rationally, logically left him, I wouldn't have known my father. It really, it's a dull ache. And similarly, I suppose with kids you love, you wish you'd never met your ex. What do you choose? It's a hard one. Men and women don't love the same way. That's correct. Soul Sons. Remember, guys, if you ask questions, highlight them so I can see them. Otherwise, it's hard to sort of know what questions are in the stream and what aren't. Put symbols before and after or emojis. That's an easy one. What are your thoughts on cognitive dissonance in relation to how men see future goals in conflict with immediate goals? Example, I want to be successful, but I'm not sure if that's possible. Well, take some steps in that direction and see if there's progress. Like logical steps, not just wishing, but you actually take action. And if nothing keeps paying off, and you sort of see that it's not something that you really want, it was a nice idea, but the reality of it doesn't sit with you and it's not you, then you know. So take steps in the direction, then you'll know. But if you don't take any steps, I think that's worse. That'll end up in regret. Real names not given asks, is love irrational or just a feeling? Can I say it's an irrational feeling? Is that a female answer, wanting to answer both sides? I think Sam Vaknin did a great video. Look him up on YouTube. It's titled "Love is a I think a psychological disorder classified because all these psychological traits that would deem you being insane actually correlate to the notion of being in love, the irrationality, the all the things that go along with it. So in many psychological circles, there's very little separating romantic love, the notion of it these days, and insanity. Armored Ghost says, imagine that the state declaring marriage as an essential business that must go on. Well, I think they, in certain economic ways, they covertly push people to do so, where people say, oh, it'll be easy if I'm married, or I won't have to worry about this, or in terms of, like when you're saving for your future or retirement, there's a psychological safety net if you have a family and children. Even if you can't quite put it together, you think, well, in the future, it won't just be me alone, not knowing what the future will bring. I'll have these people with me. So there's some of that sort of security. I can't talk. Luck Chase says, by leaving her, it removes the pain in your butt and you get your freedom back. That's fine if you don't have kids and if you haven't sort of had a long time together, you haven't moved in, you haven't done a lot in life. Because I think what psychologically happens is that, yeah, you remove this object, but for a long time it might not have been pain. If it was pain all the way through, it might be easier. But especially when things were good and then in a short period of time or within a year or two, no matter what you've tried, it's a dead corpse. You need to get rid of it. You need to move on because you had so much life. It's hard to give up. You're actually, it's almost like throwing a very real photo album of great memories away that's living and breathing in front of you, and you're incinerating it. I'm just kind of imagining that. It's a hard thing to do. Easy to say when you're not in it. Structurally, yes, but not easy emotionally. And I know us guys like to be kind of cold emotionally, and we have to be sometimes for our own good. But that's the challenge. Carl K. Why are women so opposed to women that understand the plight of men? So many say they want to understand, but argue with other females' perspective. It doesn't go along with it. I've alluded to this, but not directly, but I really think women have a psychological dread collectively now because they know they've burnt collectively the bridge of men behind them. Publicly, they'll laugh at men, they'll, man up, you're not this, always throwing nagging at every man out there as though he's your husband that's never doing anything right. And he isn't, because he's not real. You don't have him there, and you're frustrated because you don't even have what you want. You're throwing stones at your burnt bridges and you don't even know it. I think that's the problem. So any woman that takes some kind of psychological responsibility and it can actually see, you know what, I want a good relationship. Yeah, this isn't fair between men and women. And even if those women don't kind of come out and fight against men, fight for men, sorry, if they in private open up to women, which is about the only time women are honest, when they're honest to women, other women, and say, you know what, we're not that great. This isn't really fair. We wouldn't like it if this happened to us. And women pile on them. In groups, women are awful to each other. About the only good female relationships I've seen women have is one-on-one. Men can have fine relationships in groups of men, one-on-one. We have it a lot easier in that way. Women in groups, they get very catty and competitive and they want to tear each other down. So if a woman in that environment is kind of honest and saying, well, girls, this isn't fair, she gets piled on because psychologically women know they're alone now. They have publicly thrown all their men under the bus, their fathers, their brothers, their potential mates in the future. So they've painted them as a big red warning flag. That's why I think they're defensive, because it's kind of like, also, we don't want to feel shamed. We've got to take responsibility for throwing men under the bus. That we have to take responsibility for hating men. I know I feel like I hate men, but I don't want to say it. I say the opposite. I say I love men while I spit at them. It's kind of, that's what I'm assuming. Could be wrong. Again, something a woman wouldn't say. That's the difference. Christopher Hitchens was a combative beast. I miss him so much. He was, but he was rational too. And he was really eloquent and, for the most part, civil. That's what I mean about a discussion. Even if it was a debate, it would appear like a discussion. It would be very civil with Christopher Hitchens. And he would expose the truth by being very civil and talking calmly, and wouldn't be flying off the handle like so many people today do in the media and the mainstream. That's why it's really hard to get sort of communication out there. Is there any way to fight infatuation? It's a feeling, so logically, no. Other than trying to disconnect from it in some way, mentally or by physically doing something, occupying your mind, dislocating your mind, and distracting it from that feeling. I've said it before, like for me, what works for me is when there's a feeling I don't like and I can't control and I can't rationally think my way out of it, I sit there and think of it as somebody else that's not me, and let it have its time on stage, let it make a fool of itself, and then it gets tired. Armored Ghost, will you be in the MGTOW documentary? Is this Spetsnaz's one? If you're talking about that one, that one's actually out already. The trailer, the preview I put on my channel, basically the doco came out the next day. So check out Spetsnaz's channel. It came out late last night. I didn't have time to watch it all. I kind of ran through bits and pieces. I'm in it, and a couple of other well-known or notable people are in it. So it's kind of Spetsnaz to sort of put me in it. From the bits I've seen, it looks really nice, though. JW, what is your favorite film or TV show? My favorite film and TV show. TV show, a couple of years ago, I enjoyed 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. That was good. The first couple of episodes of The Blacklist was good. But the thing is, with TV shows, they kind of go up and down depending on the director, the season, who's produced, because there's a whole bunch of people making the show, and what you initially liked, you might not like later on because not the same people are making it. It might be the same football team, but different players, different coach, so forth. So TV shows, hard to answer. Films, I haven't seen too many films recently that I can say that really blew me away. My mind just bungees back to films that I've seen in the last decade that really affected me, like Revolver. It's probably my favorite movie. Whole bunch of movies, sorry. Hard to me when people say favorite. It's hard for me to pick. I think because in my mind it's limiting me to everything else. HY asks, what do I think about Bitcoin currency specifically, implications in the future? I don't know enough about it, sorry. Question, what is stopping communists from starting up companies, cooperatives and teams so that they test out their theories of value? Well, communism wants the state to, from what I glean from communism, is it's more everyone gets the same, everyone's being taken care of. So it's more, I wouldn't say passive necessarily, because you still work, but you can't go higher than if you're a more ambitious person, if you're an inventor, if you're someone who wants to do a lot more. You might keep doing it, but if you're not getting any more reward than the person across the road that's lazy and you don't respect, that can kind of demoralize you. And I think that's what communism does. The idea is good, that everyone's taken care of. I think it's a very female notion that, the tribe takes care of you. But it also demoralizes any ingenuity or progress forward by individuals. Like, for instance, in communism, I don't really think you get an Elon Musk. Mr. Highway, how do you deal with the pressure of feeling like you should be at a certain point by a specific age range? I feel that the most fulfilling life is unscripted, but society is always judging you. Well, I'm nearly 50, and I kind of, from time to time, I'm always kind of thinking, where am I? Where should I be? Where am I going? But then if you're always, if you're not looking at yourself realistically and critically in terms of who you are, what you want, who your friends are, get a good picture of the actual person you are, and if you're happy with them and if you want that to continue or what parts you want to adjust, chasing an idealized version of you that might not actually have anything to do with where you comfortably are as a person, your friends, your upbringing, unless you really don't like it, sometimes it can actually stray you further off course, from what I think. For instance, if you really don't care about knowing who you are in a very simple way, then what you're aiming for, what's it attached to? What's it calibrated to? If it's just a rich guy who has a hot chick or is loved by many, that's a cardboard cutout. It's got very little to do with you and everything to do with you fitting into a mold. Hard question to answer, but it depends on who's looking and how you're looking at the question. It's up to you. If you care a lot about the question of where you're supposed to be, is that really your question or is it everyone else's? Chad Tyrone, thank you for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. He asks, "Is ex cheated on me when I had cancer? Oof. Now she's trying to come back now that I'm successful." Oh, sorry, I don't mean to laugh. That's turning the cliche up to the max. How can humans have so much shame? She doesn't have any. She doesn't have much shame or guilt. Oh, she doesn't have much guilt. Told her never, and she said, "I was just emotionally curious to cheat on." Told her never, and she said, "I was just emotionally curious to cheat on." So it was just a curious thing. She just kind of tried cheating, if I'm reading you right. Basically, it's your boundaries. If someone crosses something that really, it's not just kind of fractured or a sore spot, but it's shattered and it can never be put back together, and you can never stop feeling the way you naturally feel about it, then you can't tolerate it. You can't live a life of tolerating something just for someone else when you know you can't. For instance, when people aren't in the situation, it's easy for them to say, well, if my potential girlfriend did this, you watch. I would rationally just get rid of her. I would be very ethical. Black and white. And then the situation happens and it's not so black and white. They might forgive the person they love with their temper, with certain character traits that beforehand you would have thought, no, I wouldn't even accept anyone like that. Some people, they cheat on them and they try and work it out because there's so much else that was, in their eyes, maybe a one-off. I don't know. But then they think, well, there's nothing else that's happened. I really can't judge because it's not me. I don't want to tell anyone what to do. But it's basically, what can you live with? If you can really live with it, do it. And if after a while you just can't, continue to suffer. You know, what's worse, suffering someone you hate, you can't live with and you don't trust, or you think you can't live with the suffering of them not being in your life and not knowing what to do and not having any hope of finding anything better. There's a lot of connected things like self-esteem as well. Whereas in the moment, you're not thinking about my self-esteem. You're thinking about, they cheated on me. Can I trust them? I don't want to lose them. You're not thinking about self-actualization, self-esteem, self-respect, and those things. Those things come into play later on when you've got nothing there but yourself and putting yourself together. Omega Sigma, with 250,000 children annually available for adoption in the US alone. Why isn't this seen as more of a viable option for the MGTOW community? Allows for imprinting virtues, morality, and wisdom. Theoretically, yeah, but they're other people's children. Yeah, you're adopting. I know there's a lot of children out there in the world without good mothers or fathers, but a man knows he's again excusing in some way these irresponsible women or parents or whoever, society these days. All right, I'll take care of your kids as well. I'm a virtuous man, but I'm going to take your offspring. I'm going to take care of your mistakes, your residue. They'd much rather that child be theirs. If you're a self-respecting person, you don't just want to instill your values into irresponsible DNA from others. Isn't it better if you've got those high values to instill them in yours? You know, you don't try and make a Daihatsu into a Ferrari if you've got the virtue of a Ferrari. Take care of a Ferrari. I don't know, bad analogy, but you know what I mean. I wouldn't want to take care of, even if I could, I wouldn't if I had the choice of my own flesh and blood, as opposed to taking care of some idiot's abandoned, irresponsible decision. I'd have sympathy, but given the choice, it's a no-brainer. I'm not responsible for other people's mistakes. I feel sympathy for the child though, but not my problem. Benjamin, to clarify, would it be Paul Elam, Terence Pop, someone else who would be a best one? Oh, this is for the debate question earlier. Daniel, what lens do you use with your Panasonic GH5? This one's the Leica 15mm f1.7 with a variable ND. And I've got a LUT over it in the software, so the look is slightly different. Don't know if I'm happy with this color grading though. Too much purple in it. Too late now. Mankind Unlocked. Do you have any experience in software? If so, how could someone new to the field find a position right now? I have no idea. The cliche of learn to code, but for a decade now, the digital programming, online web design, IT field is awash. So the market's flooded. And especially now with what's going on in the world, it seems the online market is probably flooded and in need of a lot. I really don't know, other than put your feelers out to agencies and keep pounding that avenue. Sorry, not the best answer. Real name's not given. What's your view on alcohol? Don't like it, don't drink it, never have. That's not true. Look, I've tried it once or twice with friends when we were on vacation with the guys, and they kind of pushed me like, come on, human, for once, have a drink with you guys. We're out here in the middle of nowhere. The worst that'll happen is you're just going to fall asleep drunk. And so I've tried it once or twice. When I was young, just like smoking, to give it a shot once. Didn't like it. Didn't like the smell, the taste. I didn't really see any benefits. And I've got a big control freak in me. I don't like being out of control, being inebriated and sort of, half asleep. So I don't like it, because if I'm going to feel good with alcohol, as people say, oh, you feel great, I'd rather consistently be able to feel that without having to take something, without depending on alcohol in my life to make me feel better than my normal life. I don't think it's a very good thing. I don't like the smell of it either. There's not much that's good. They kind of say there's antioxidants and, a glass of wine a day and all that horse shit, but I think they're reaching when they say that. People are just trying to confirm their biases. Hamster wheel. When walking in the city, how can you keep yourself from getting attacked? I'm a smaller guy and have had super violent encounters. Sometimes I run because self-defense is a crime where I live. Not sure, man, other than avoid situations that typically always result in, in a broad analogy, don't walk down the streets that are always dangerous. Don't go down dangerous neighborhoods. unless you're going to spend all your time training just for that. It's kind of like PUA and game. You're going to train yourself so much to be able to handle women. I've got better things to do with my time. Just avoid all that. If there's somewhere else you can go where you don't have to waste so much time on something you don't really respect, have an interest in, do that. Kubasniak asks, I tend to glow when I'm in love, and without it, I stare at the abyss. Any thoughts on that? Well, yeah. When many of us alcoholics don't have alcohol, it is awful. It's almost like being disembodied. You're a happy, euphoric, calm, smiley, docile person, whatever it might be, all positive. And then all of a sudden you don't have it. You have nothing, and the feelings are awful. Other than if you know it's better and life's more sane and rational without it, you know you shouldn't, then spend more time there. Or like they say, it's hard to kind of go cold turkey, but if you slowly wean yourself off it, you spend, even in a relationship, spend more time away from it. Give yourself permission and fight for, no, I need more time on my own. I want to go for a run. You don't have to come with me, or whatever. If you don't have any hobbies, pastimes, or any space that's just yours where you do your own thing, then when you don't have you actually, look at it this way, you can't go your own way when you've never had your own way, when you've never been interested in your own way. So with a girlfriend, if it's never your way, with her when you speak, structurally in your life, you don't actually have your way on your own with your friends or solo, then of course you're an empty shell when she's not there. So the trick is to, if you want to, try and have your way. Otherwise, I think for some guys, going your own way when she's not there and you're hurt, then that's conveniently like, oh yeah, women are awful. It's like, well, you didn't believe in any of this stuff enough that when you're with her, you spoke up, or when there was something on TV that you didn't disagree with, that you spoke up about. Most of the time you kept your mouth shut and you said, yeah, you're right, dear. So if you don't have any interest in you when you're with her, then when you're not, you're nothing, and you're in complete fear, and you need your addiction again. So I'd say the trick is to have more interest in yourself when you're with someone as well. Then that feeling of, if you have pockets of you with another person, then when she's not there, at least you've got something you're familiar with when she's not there permanently. Wet Palette, do you believe that a man who naturally values personal responsibility, individualism, and independence inevitably ends up living the MGTOW principle unconsciously without the label? Yes. A lot of the Manosphere is just kind of reconstituted, reformed Stoicism, old teachings, things that were passed down. This stuff finds its way back when things don't make sense for men, and we need to be calibrated to reality again to sort of be able to survive and live life well, to be able to express ourselves and do things. If we're kind of paralyzed and disabled, we're useless to ourselves first, and then secondarily to the world. And if everyone's telling us we're useless, we've got to figure out why. And then we keep coming back to, asking myself questions, talking to other men. Okay, now I figured it out. All the complaints out there, including my own questions, lead to, it's not just me. It's a lot of stuff wrong out there, and it's not all my fault. Yashan says, how do you deal with the society's pressure to get married? Coming from an Eastern background, I feel the pressure is much higher. Yeah, a lot of European, East Asian, a lot of the non-Western cultures, there's a lot of pressure. basically it comes to how much you're willing to fight for what you believe in, and what you believe in, is it really that important? And it's also your own personality. If you've got a personality that's not as independent, you've got more of a people pleaser in you. I was more rebellious. I was never an arsehole, but I was very questioning, creative. Why? Why should I? You needed to give me an answer. I wanted to work things out. My mother always tells me I was very curious, and I had funny comebacks that were very astute, and they made everyone laugh because I questioned things, Well, why should I when you don't? That was my attitude, and everyone laughed when I was a kid. Whereas if you didn't do that, you just sat there quiet and you didn't, it can be harder. So your own personality can hamstring you more. But all I'd say is, if you're in that situation, and depending on how bad your family environment is, the sooner you can move out of home, the better, if it's that bad. I never had my parents never pressured me much. They allowed me to be very independent, which I'm really grateful for. So it's a lot to do with all that. It's a whole mixture. It's not a one-size-fits-all answer. So I hope that kind of helped. I know it probably wasn't much, but if the people closest to you, like your family, your girlfriend, anyone that's the most intimate in your life, if they're not on the same page, and you can't even talk with them, you can't say, look, I get your point of view, but I just really don't feel comfortable, and here's why, can I talk to you? And if they're just kind of smothering you, trying to drown you and saying, no, think the way we think, we don't care what you think, you're wrong, we won't even listen to you, then how are you supposed to work it out in an environment where they don't let you breathe? So remove yourself from the environment as much as you can, or if you have to live with them, remove yourself, like go to your room, go for walk, don't spend any more time with them than you need to. If they're not going to talk, tell them that. Well, I can't talk to you. Every time I talk, you won't listen. It's only me listening to you. So Miles says, what type of masks are you running down there? Stay safe. Any kind I can put on, really. The one I've just sort of discovered, I've never liked scarves. Don't like anything around my neck. I don't like ties. But one thing from where I work, we have a lot of free, what do they call those, motorcycle elastic sort of scarves. And I sort of wore one, and they're really good. So it's kind of like during winter now, they keep me warm as well. The designs aren't too bad. You just always have them around your neck when you go out. And then when you need to sort of put them on, you just kind of, you put on sort of one of those elastic motorcycle kind of masks. I don't know what they're called. There's a name for them. But they're better than sort of walking around like a doctor all the time. It looks kind of weird. It makes everything look ominous out there. Finch, women live in a constant state of anxiety to differing degrees. Men do too. Don't you worry about that. Men at least though, from what I see, there's more men like us, perhaps to certain degrees, that are willing to ask questions why and try and work things out, and not just kind of always pound the drum. It's just from my point of view, and not admit to sort of wrongdoing. Women can't really admit guilt, and they find it really hard, and they're frustrating themselves. Mr. Highway, why do you think that men want to have kids so young when the most logical age would be mid to late 40s? At that age, you actually have wisdom and resources to pass down to ensure offspring survival. Yeah, but today you also have the wisdom to know how rational is it a decision to even try? How rare is it to find someone worthy, given what you know, how sensible you are, everything you've built up? Would you risk it now? So I still say that the best time whether accidentally or not, if you do want to have kids, is younger, because if you get along with her like hand in glove, there's less chance, if she values you, the family, when she's very young, and you get with her and you have a family and children and you do all the sensible things to give it enough time to sort of make sure you want to have children with her, she's less likely to let other bitchy women ruin it for her, because she may not want to let go of what she's got, because then if she's got half a brain, she'll kind of see, well, what am I going to have afterwards? Like my single friends going on dates and being dumped all the time. I'm not saying that the waltz exists, but that's your best chance, because when we all get older, we get stuck in our ways. I mean, I know now I don't have much of an interest, and neither do women my age. Despite what many of you guys think, it's like when you get to midlife, it's not like now the women will be coming back and I'll still want them as much. You want them less. They want relationships less, because most of them have had children. They don't want to go through it anymore. They want their independence. They don't want to risk being with the wrong person again. Don't think that they're going to come running back. Yeah, you might be able to sort of date younger women when you're older, but then again, then you're going to deal with younger women. And how have they been raised today? You look at what women who are younger say. They're not. The quality of younger women was better before, because they were raised in societies that had a better standard, where they'd learn better things from their parents. Their mothers were a bit more restrained, whether it be by the church or socially and so forth. Now, too many people are being raised in single-parent households. They don't have parents, transient relationships, nothing sticks. People just kind of go from moment to moment. So it's not aside from individually, the freedom, that structurally is good when you get older, but also existentially and psychologically, if you're not built for it, if you don't have an interest in it, you will have a lot of bad days from whether it's loneliness, depression, things like that. And we see a lot of it today. Do you think the discussions we are having now with analyzing culture ideas are going to be looked back on like the information talked about by Plato and Aristotle or Sigmund Freud? Not possibly us. This is the actual other thing, I think, because of the internet. It's not like book publishing before, where the best of the best had to pass through some sort of gatekeepers to be published, because they were the best writers. They were the ones that would get through and comment on society and impart lessons. The internet is so open to everybody, which is great, but at the same time it dilutes everything, so you can't find anything specific. And people's short attention span means that nobody will stand out. Look at Jordan Peterson. He was, if you want to equate him to an author of the past in terms of attention, of someone popular, someone imparting messages, a writer, and make that analogous, he's been and gone already. Whereas previously books, the writer stayed through his whole life. He'd keep writing. Now we care about the personality. We care about throwing stones at them. We mentally chew them up and spit them out like Jordan Peterson. We try to find fault. We aren't learning from the writer anymore, the person giving us the lessons, the content, like the Stoics. We are debating with them and trying to tear them down. Life moves very fast. It's a very different environment to have those kind of prominent celebrity type teachers that will consistently bring out stuff that would mentor us. Our attention span, coupled with the vast diluting nature of the internet, makes it really hard. Because let's face it, like in our feeds, what would make you sit and only say, like, Jordan Peterson is my favorite, no matter what feed is being fed to me? No, you'll just keep sampling everyone and you'll forget Jordan Peterson tomorrow. You'll forget your, the lover tomorrow. Everything moves so fast. I think psychologically, we are being abandoned all the time in our mind. We can't actually latch onto any father figure, any mentor, any lover, feel at home anywhere. We are constantly being abandoned and left on our own and learning to mentally survive. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. As I said, if you don't have any psychological or philosophical interest, I think you're that much more helpless. But yeah, I don't think we're going to have Plato's, Aristotle's, and Freud's like yesteryear. The environment isn't conducive to that. We don't have the soil to grow those kind of plants. We're in a desert where people just keep moving forward to find water. Like, people don't sit still. Karu, hey man, how you going? How many relationship issues do you think are generated because of the social mask people put on to impress? And do you think that a high degree of honesty would be beneficial or detrimental? I think that most of us present masks to people. I think in some way, you know how we've got language? I use language to communicate with you. I think, and I'm trying to express who I am, but sometimes you go on the autopilot of language. Even the words I'm throwing one after the other are pre-prepared. They're concurrent masks, a concatenation of masks that go forward for me to try and relate to you. I think people, when they're in front of, they go into boyfriend mode when they're on a date. So we put on masks. We don't actually present who we are. And as a result, some people, for instance, if you're a people pleaser, or on the other end of the spectrum, you're a narcissist, you're never really presenting yourself. You're putting on a mask beforehand because that's either the way you think you're gonna be accepted if you're a people pleaser, if you're a submissive kind of person, or if you're a narcissist or egocentric person because you know you can get something out of a relationship. So the only way you feel like you can get it to work, the only way you can communicate is not as you are, because you might have learned that people don't listen to you when you're a child. You on your own as yourself really wasn't noticed. So you had to use the other person's language. You had to speak like other people spoke. You had to act in this certain way, and that got attention, whether good or bad. So I think we kind of, without knowing it, we a lot of the time put masks forward and we think it's us, but it's not. It's a tricky thing. So I think the best thing you can do, I think that's one of the things I learned, is that you don't have to try any more with relationships than you would with friends that just organically accept you for who you are. Your friends, I think, the ones that you choose, that you comfortably can be around without any speed bumps, I think that's the most natural you are. You can just be yourself. Sometimes less so with your family because you've got no choice. As was mentioned before, some people have a hard time with their family. They can't speak to them. When you start to find out your values, it doesn't match with your family anymore. You're finding who you are. And certainly with romantic relationships, you go on an automatic mask goes forward because your biology wants them. So it's really hard to go, oh, I don't care what they think. That your biology does. So you put on a mask. But I think that people put on these social masks to impress. They definitely do, and sometimes they don't realize it. Smart guy. Opportunistic love is not love, in my opinion. Love should have a dimension of empathy and caring for someone else. That's not been my experience with most modern women. I would say the same thing. That's what I've seen. Most women's idea of love is getting love. Men actually, we feel good giving it. From asking them out and them saying yes, we get rewarded. Like, if I give, if I do, I get a little rush. of acceptance. So that's the reflex. What else can I do to get a rush? Whereas hers, what else can he do so I can get a rush? It's the opposite direction. They're complementary. Man is the presence, a woman is the absence. We're the presence that fills up the absence in, figurative and physical ways too. But in every way, it's opposite. But we're complementary. We're not the same. This is the thing. We are complementary in opposite directions. Presence, absence. She wants to receive, we love to give. But there used to be a respect and a way of doing it where both parties would have some sort of self-respect, would treat each other well, we'd cooperate, we'd be able to further the species, you could raise children. If one side of the equation is saying, well, all bets are off, I'm not cooperating at all, even for my own benefit, I'm too stupid to cooperate for my own benefit, what do? Mumtaz, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate it, man. He asks, why would a system not let us mention Kamala Harris slept her way up? Traces of White Brown's DNA can still be found on her face. I don't know who that is. I'm not a big news, social media, scandal kind of person. Sorry, But from what I gleaned from your comment, when we don't want to mention women's past, if they have been bad, a lot of women, say for instance, who have maybe done porn or something like that, or have done something really bad. This is the thing now. Social media, like for all its bad things, and the internet, it's exposed people. So you can't be... And relating to Karu's question as well, you can less afford to be someone else now. Your best bet is to honestly find out who you are, be respectful, be intelligent, not care what people think, but also be as honest as you can and don't lie. There's another reason why I wanted to show my face is that I was tired of speaking what I thought was true, but in the dark. And if I was a bit braver and was braver to show and be and always say what I want as civilly as I can, then whatever happens in the future, I can be less and less embarrassed because I didn't spurg out. I wasn't sort of venting all the time. But if you're always venting from an emotional place rather than talking from an honest place, then there's less chance. For instance, now I'm thinking, say in the future, everyone found out in my family about this. Aside from, again, the very first videos I made where anonymously I was trying to figure out stuff and venting a fair bit, you could say, yeah, but that was back then. But especially in the last couple of years, I talk like I talk with all of you. So what are you surprised about? Are you embarrassed that other people know? That's not my problem, but I'm not actually saying anything that's new to you. So speak as yourself as often as you can. Be honest. Women don't like that. Women's life is very covert. If they can, and especially now, women can cheat more because of online. Before in a community, people could see you. You could only have affairs with people you'd bump into in your community. But now you can have affairs, and I know for myself in the last couple of years, the amount of women in their dating profiles that say I'm separated, which conveniently means I'm having an affair or I'm open to having affairs outside of my marriage. Just there's heaps of women. Women just lie a lot more, and they can lie a lot more. And when they're exposed, where they kind of see an opportunity, well, I'm going to be more ballsy or ovary-y than the next female because that'll get me attention. So I'll show my skin and be on Instagram or do porn or whatever it might be. I don't care. I'm brash. I'm young. I'm invulnerable. Women can do no wrong. Society always puts a soft landing for women. But in these cases, when it's so extreme that someone might say, yeah, okay, as a guy, you did porn years ago. That's not you now. But there's a limit to what I'll accept. It's not your personality. See, we're not judging your personality. If similarly, I'm trying to equate it, say similarly something that a man would have done in his past that he needs to admit to, even though it's not what he is now. If I committed a massive, heinous crime, I did my time, and now I've come out of prison after 10 years and I say I'm a reformed person, like I'm very different. And a woman could say, yeah, I see that, but I can't forgive what you did 10 years ago. I'm sorry. I wish it weren't the case. And I'd need to accept that. It's similar with women. They want to be forgiven for everything. This is what responsibility is. And women used to be more responsible before. Now they're not. For better or worse, they're having to be responsible, whether they like it or not. How do I deal with toxic people at school, workplace that I can't avoid? I don't really associate. I don't stay around them. If it's so bad, like I don't stay around people that I can't be civil with, that I can't have a conversation with, or if I'm forced to, I interact very, very little, and in a very, very neutral workplace-like manner. I don't personally hang around people that aren't my kind of people. Travis asks, what do you think about more men moving to places like Colombia and Thailand with COVID? That has absolutely changed this trend recently. If it's just for women, personally, again, it's for women. It's like, how much are you going to live for women? Like it's kind of like for me, it depends on what you value. If it's all about women, admit it to yourself. Yeah. Go to a third world country. It'll be easier for you. Sure. But don't pretend it's about you philosophically. We kind of know about female nature, but it's nothing to do with picking up women or being with women. It is. So if it is about women, which, okay, fine, it's you. I have nothing against it, where I'm the odd one out. Biologically and naturally, men and women want to be together. I know it. It's a natural thing. If it's about women, it's probably safest. Nothing wrong with that, if that's what you want to do. But I kind of raise my eyebrows when guys go, yeah, I'm a MGTOW that has nothing to do with women, and I'm moving to Thailand where I can just kind of have casual relationships. Nah, it's everything to do with women. If you're prepared to go to those lengths for women, otherwise go somewhere else. Why are you going to places where it's imbued with so much easy access to pussy? But I see nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. If you want to have relationships and you're trying to avoid a lot of the legal dangers and stuff of the West, absolutely. Although I haven't looked into it enough because I'm not interested enough to sort of know that I'm pretty sure it's not a clean slate of safety there either. The West catches up everywhere. Spetsnaz, how you going, man? Great doco. I haven't watched all of it, but it looks great. Thoughts on TL? Now, I'm not going to mention her name. I might actually do a video on it, but not talk about her and not mention her name, because I don't want to give her name any more attention in the algorithm than she deserves. She's actually getting more attention now. She's one of the most popular women in the last week and a half. Think about that, because we're all talking about her. But I understand the necessity to talk about her in terms of making men aware of what's happening with her. I think she's just the typical woman ranting in private, but she's shown herself publicly. This is the way women talk when amongst themselves, complaining about men, how entitled they are. It's typical. It's just funny to sort of see a typical girl spurging out because she has a position that exposes her to a great deal of society. She's a public figure. So my thoughts on her, yeah, she gave me flashbacks too. That's what I mean. She's typical. TL is typical from what most guys have seen with women, either when we're arguing with them or what we hear from our friends, what we see in coffee shops, when we see in public men arguing with their women. It's just typical. It's amusing, but I was actually going to do a comment on her, but not typically this sort of stuff. Yeah, look how stupid she is. Yeah, we know it's low hanging fruit, but I want to talk about something specifically that I don't think's been talked about. Just a little perspective from the side that I think's informative. But yeah, typical woman, flashbacks indeed. Christopher asked, did you answer the covert contract question? I'm not sure, Christopher. Can you kind of ask it again? I may not have. Covert contract. Maybe not. Can you please ask it again? The feed is, we've got a few hundred, 139 people here, and the feed's kind of going pretty quickly. So if you could mention it again, and hopefully I can get to it. Bracket the question with some emojis so I can see it. Make it stand out. Yeah, everyone, go check out Spetsnaz's doco. It's up live. Give the man some love. By the looks of it, we spent a lot of time on that documentary. I know how long it takes to edit videos, and that one's pretty detailed and long. Oh, okay. Oh, come on. Here we are. The screen just keeps flicking up and up and up. All right, now I think I've caught up. I'm just going to fly through these that look like they're bracketed with emojis or symbols. So they're questions. Wet palette. What are societal pressures? What are societal pressures? I hear the term a lot, but we have actually broken down what they are and why they are effective. I'm skeptical of supposed individual who needs social validation. Yeah, it's all individual. It's no rules anymore socially. So basically act any way you want, but now then you're going to be psychologically or physically left with the consequences. Case in point now, back in the old times that women hate so much, a woman could be relatively safe in public because even men would say, hey, that's no way to treat a lady. But now you kind of see whatever happening on the streets, like, not my problem, she can deal with it. She's not my woman. Whereas in some respects, an older woman was your grandmother or your mother. You could see that you'd be civil and respectful. You help ladies cross the road. That's all gone. It's not men's fault. What did Chappelle say? Women killed it. What's your thoughts on casually dating a woman with a few kids who are already grown up and out of the house? Any better than younger kids or still just as toxic? At my age, I see no problem with it. But again, I assess the personality. I've never wanted to be a father. I've never dated single mothers. I've avoided single mothers as much as I could. The only time I would entertain the thought of it is if the kids were, as you mentioned, adults about to move out of home, already moved out of home. So basically, I just want a relationship with the female. I don't want an extended family. I don't want to be a father. I'm not their father. I'm your man. So at my age, yeah, I'm probably more comfortable at the times that I maybe would entertain kind of going out. I don't really date that often these days. Because someone young, there's just all this garbage to deal with. And what would I have in common? Can you imagine me sitting down and trying to have a conversation with a 20-something-year-old? I mean, I'm not saying I'm a genius, But what's she going to... I mean, you talk about Nawaltz, you talk about unicorns. Me going out with someone young would be a unicorn in the respect that she would be more intelligent and very different from people her age, given the social media and the environment she's grown up with. Now, unless she's got no friends, and in that respect, like, mentally, what would she be like? I don't know. Anyway, hope that answers that question. Suryev, how do you deal with toxic people at school, work? Oh, okay, I've answered that. I hate it when I do that. Human, can you talk about the importance for a man to be on his path or have himself sorted by the time he's 40? I didn't have myself sorted and I paid for it. I don't know if I've got myself sorted. I do, in the sense of having a home base. So while you're figuring stuff out, do the very low-level Maslow things, like have a roof over your head. So if worse comes to worse, you're still going to be okay. You've got a little bit of money in the bank. You got somewhere to sleep. You can buy food. Other than that, everything else, if you take backward steps from everything else you go forward from, and that you might risk rationally, that's life. But don't gamble with the basics, the food, shelter, and all that stuff. Do you drink coffee, PJ? Yeah, I did. One coffee a day. I've cut back from 3. I'm trying to cut back from coffee a lot. And this is just a single shot. I used to have 3 double shots, or 3 or 4 a day, depending. But for me, they're more like a habit, a comfort drink. I don't actually crave hot coffee. I crave the experience. Do I believe in and practice NoFap? No. Okay, I'm just trying to look at anything that looks like a question that's highlighted. Christopher, why should we listen to any red pill philosophy or rationale? You shouldn't. Listen to what... That's the good thing, is that you're interested enough, is you want things to make sense. You're tired of being told what you should do and what does work, because it continually just doesn't work for you. You want to try and figure things out yourself. So sample things. If it doesn't work, don't listen to it. Don't listen to me. Trust your own instincts, but careful not to sort of be confirming biases because you want to continue to do things that aren't good for you. Don't take backward steps. If you don't like what you've had in the past, don't confirm the biases. That'll just keep you doing it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Boffin, hey man. What is the most creative, uncomfortable, rude, funny way a woman said no to you? That's a good question. Let me think about that. What's the most uncomfortable, rude way a woman said no to me? They never do it directly. Most women, the uncomfortable, rude way they say no to you is to not give you things, to refrain, to deny you things, to embarrass you in front of other people. So making you uncomfortable rather than directly overtly. Again, they're kind of masters at the covert tactic. So overtly, there's less of them that'll be rude because they're going to be responsible for that afterwards, and they don't like the shame. So because they don't feel guilt and they avoid shame, they will do anything that will give them the least amount of shame. So they'll just act in a way that will be blasé, and then they can always say, well, that's the way you feel. I didn't directly say anything. So I think they do it covertly. That's been my experience. What's been some ways that make me uncomfortable is that there's always trying to compete with you. And when you say left, they want to say right. They always want to either nag or say no or never be on the same page. That uncomfortable feeling, whatever they want to do, knowing what you want to do, they tend to do the opposite. They're always trying to assert and it's not so much their individuality, they're trying to assert somehow their autonomy through being oppositional rather than actually knowing what they want and trying to get along. Because if they've picked you, that's part of their life. You'd think that they'd want that. But I think in answer to your question, they do it covertly. I think you've asked this a few times, Suri, of how do I deal with toxic people at school, workplaces, where you can't avoid them. I've sort of said avoid them. If it's at home, spend less time with them. Stay in your room, go out, go for a walk if you can't help it. If you're at home, move out of home the soonest you can. If you're in a work environment that you can't stand, your manager's awful, HR, find another place to work. Leave. You can't change them. If you can't have a conversation, if they keep muzzling you, leave. If you can't speak, leave. If you can't exist as well, cooperatively and fairly, and talk, even if you've got different opinions, leave. Because that person's being petulant. Basically, that person's not leaving any other room aside from their religion. You either submit to their way of thinking or it's over. Hey man, thank you. Oh, thanks so much for that super chat. It's very generous. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work, my friend. I give you this not for myself, but for the young men out there listening and trying to find themselves in their way in this crazy world. Thanks very much for the donation. I'll put it into the channel gear or something. Really appreciate it, AU. And that was a really good, really great story. I think I've mentioned AU a couple of times. He's got a really great way of expressing his stories to convey a really important message. You could tell he's a good writer, and he expresses himself in ways to really kind of showcase an important thing we've been talking about in ways that, from a personal anecdote, that resonates because it's so common. Maybe not so common, but it's very honest and real. So thank you, AU. Some people want to donate to you, AU. A woman's life is basically weaving a magical illusion around themselves, which is funny when you consider what they want from a man. It's always real and infinite and finite. Yeah, we want real and finite and things to stay what they are, a consistency that life grows from. They keep pulling that plant as soon as they plant it. And they're asking, why doesn't anything grow? Stop pulling it. George, what the hell is that? COP 18,900. What does that mean? There's no way you donated $18,900. Anyway, Human, thank you. Seeing the Hook, thank you for that special video you did. Seeing the Hook, thank you. Thanks for watching. And whatever that number is and what it means. What does COP mean, guys, if you can let me know? Thanks for sort of supporting my channel, guys. Like, the more you guys are engaged, I really got a nice community of guys that when Spurgs come in, you guys either don't talk to them and they leave because we don't give them attention, which is great. It's exactly what I encourage. But we foster these great stories like from AU, communicating what we need to be communicating and what we should be, because, you know, that mentoring isn't out there. So we're kind of mentoring each other, teaching younger guys, sharing stories between guys middle age as well, to kind of go, yep, happened to me too. Just confirms that everything I'm thinking about isn't hyperbole. I'm not being, you know, insane about these things. So thanks for supporting. And I'll keep making the videos and keep doing these at least once a week if I can. So yeah, let me know what COP is. Is that a currency? Maybe part of the world? Oh, okay. It's a currency, so it means it's $5. Okay, cool. John Smith, what are your thoughts regarding about girlfriend with guy friends in this social media? Yeah. Women who have male friends, especially in this environment, very, very risky. If she has a male friend, a best friend, or every time they catch up, she's always inviting you out. You're always catching up with them, so it's out in the open. Okay, if you're okay with it, fine. But if she's catching up with male friends without you, I personally wouldn't, not because I'm insecure, but yeah, go, but why do you feel a need without me, always having to catch up without me? And it's different from male friends. You know, I don't want a female with me when us guys are watching movies or watching sport, because generally she probably has no interest in that. But yeah, in my experience, I haven't, there's one or two exes I remember they had male friends. One in particular, I realized my instincts were right. Women who hide male friends that have to catch up on their own, I wouldn't trust them. And I think that instinct is founded, because biologically, there's a lot pulling men and women together that is not platonic. What do I use on my stream to get the overlays I use? I use Streamlabs OBS. And they're basically just transparent PNGs. The static images and the ones that are rotating are transparent PNGs that I add the slideshow rollover. So basically you can just add layers. OTR, Human, you might be wrong about the Thailand comment. I know truckers that do the Philippines when the rates for freight are down in America, and they score themselves a little side piece here and there. Yeah, exactly. I kind of said, if it's about women, if it's about sort of having fun in that regard, yeah, fine. But don't deny that it's about women too. I haven't really heard any guy saying, I moved to Thailand and I avoid women. That's the only thing. I have nothing wrong against it. I loved Thailand when I went there. It's a fantastic country. But you live like a king, and sex is pretty easy to get. Would you call MGTOW more a spiritual movement, getting away from materialism and women and closer to ourselves and nature God? It's up to the individual. It can be spirituality, philosophy, depending on the person speaking about it and how they see it. It could be one or the other. They overlap. It's kind of about meaning that helps make life sense, I suppose. How many emojis does it take to spark humans' attraction? Armored Ghost. I noticed it. I've read some of your comments, Armored Ghost. Vituperator. What do I think of doll bludgers? Look, some people might need it temporarily. Some people can't actually work at all, or very minimally. I mean, say you're able-bodied, you've got qualifications. It's hard in this environment as it is sometimes. If you've got impediments, physical, mental, I wouldn't kind of call them doll bludgers. So again, depends. Some of these questions, I know you guys want me to be black and white, and I will be, where I do have a very concrete opinion, but it's not always clear cut. But yeah, those people like welfare mothers and doll bludgers and guys sort of with one tooth that sort of drink and do drugs and can't be bothered doing anything and find every excuse, even though they can work. Don't think very much of them at all. I don't like paying for them. But people who actually need it, find it hard to work or can't work, I don't have a bad thing to say about them. Do you think society can survive without marriage if new reproduction technology is available? Well, it's learning to survive without traditionalism. So it's evolving. I don't know what's going to happen, but it has to. Because I can't see women giving up the keys to the castle anytime soon. So now it's a matter of how can we fudge this situation? Bernard asks, do you think that women's public anger is connected to men going their own way, refusal to let the state be involved in our personal relationships? Women's, I don't think it's directly related to MGTOW per se, but again, that's why the acronyms don't mean much. MGTOW is just a natural reaction to sensible men saying, I don't care, whether or not they find MGTOW or not. But the more women act uncooperative and irrational, the more a rational, cooperative man will say, well, I'm not dealing with that. That's a bad deal. Which is funny, I've mentioned it before. That's precisely the kind of man they want. And it's almost like they're testing him, but they push him so far beyond the limit that he'll go, nah, see you later. And they're two proud women. They don't feel guilt and they don't like to be shamed. They can't go, oh, stop, sorry, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. So passively, they're trying to figure out how they can say, we don't really mean it, or how far can we push you because we've become petulant and we haven't been raised properly. And because they don't like having these conversations, I don't hold out much hope. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, I'm back. You know where I went. Can't drink this much fluid without taking a break. Okay, let's continue. Does coffee mess with your sleep? It does. I never drink coffee after like 4 p.m. anyway. Certainly not as before the sun's going down. After the sun's going down. So it affects my sleep big time. That's why I've reduced my coffee, and I try and only have one, maybe two in the morning, but usually one now. Suryev, any advice for a teenager in high school, and also what is your biggest regret in life? High school's hard. It's kind of really trying to find your place. Before puberty, you're really yourself a lot more. You naturally find friends that are like you. No one's competing very much, except for the bullies. But everyone tends to get along. You're the freest you've ever been, even psychologically, I think. After that, high school, puberty, atomic bomb of hormones and chemicals and things like that. What is your biggest regret in your life? My biggest regret, there are certain parts, whenever people ask me my favorite something or my biggest something, or to sort of pick one of something, I always think I'm being unfair. Probably how I dealt with a situation with an ex about 10, 15 years ago. Given my time again, I was very cold. I didn't have much compassion. I wasn't an asshole. I wasn't rude, but I was very cold. Not that she didn't deserve it, but I did it very, very coldly. That looking back on it, I'm very embarrassed. If I had my time again, there's no way I'd act like that again. Whether or not it would have helped things would be another thing, but that's probably... And people that go, I don't regret anything, I think either it's BS or you are being cold. So it's kind of, you got to learn from your past too. If I had my time over again, and that's the thing, you're presented with opportunities, whether it's a negative one. Say you were obsequious and you were submitting to a female. You regret how you acted. Then when it comes time again and you get the same thing, you act better, you act differently, you act more maturely, you've learned a lesson from the past. Similarly, if I was at fault, when I'm presented with a similar situation, I'd hope that I would act better, less coldly, more act like someone I'd be proud of. Be honest with yourself, guys. Be honest. It's all I'm trying to do on my channel. When I kind of chew on my thoughts in my videos and my ideas, I'm doing them for myself, but I kind of just show by example what I think we should be doing. Chewing on things that we find important, learning how to think better and how to be responsible when something comes forward, knowing how to think our way through it, knowing how to speak up, so we're less regretful in the future. So given recently in my life, the last few years, certainly while I've been really taking responsibility and making these videos, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be less regretful in my future, given what stance I'm taking now. Dunstan, why do incel guys idealize women in relationships so much? Because they can't get it or they find it really hard. They're longing for it. I said in that previous video recently, what's worse, the pain of never having it, being kind of denied what everyone else is having, like seeing that train go by that everyone's having fun in and smiling and having a party, and you're never invited to the party. We're social creatures to a degree, so you feel like you're always on the outside. You don't have the affection, the touch, the social interaction. So that can be really hard. So they idealize women because it's a one-on-one doorway that's not as intimidating as being social. It's still just getting one woman. Give me one woman is more of an introverted way to saying, give me that doorway where I can actually step through, and I'll just need one woman. You don't need to give me a social system. I don't need to be a gregarious person. Give me one person. Give me another nerd. Give me someone as awkward as me that I can connect with, and that's all I need. But they can't even do that. So I have sympathy for them. So I think that's why they idealize them, because it's a way that they can feel less alone and less connected to people. I mean, me making these videos, people say, oh, why do you need women? Why do you need other men? Why do you need to connect? It'd just be me talking to myself. I can read books and I can talk to myself, but the point is to connect with people, to communicate, to have friendships, to have conversations, real ones, where I talk, not to hear my own voice come back to me, but to hear someone has heard me, and then they talk and I learn and my view opens up from another human being. People in their stoic stance take a lot of that for granted and think, I can be completely alone without, and desensitize myself to any tactile communication, any kind of conversation, any kind of touch, laughter, small amounts of pain to learn something. All those things can be good in small degrees, especially pain and lessons. You don't want to be blind, but yeah, Finch said for Dunstan, you always want what you can't have. But also with a lot of the FAs and people who can't, they're not even being able to sample it to be able to judge whether it's worth it or not. It's easy for some of us who have had relationships to go, yeah, I know it's not worth it, or this person or these kinds of relationships aren't worth it. I've had empirical personal experience, which is your biggest connector to reality, not just theory, not just what marketing is lying to you or not lying to you about, but also your personal examples time after time after time tells you, okay, this is the reality. But if a person can't even get in the door of having that experience of reality, it's like you're denied living in some sense. Genesis, thank you for the super chat. I know you're an atheist. Not an atheist as much as an agnostic, but God bless you and your work. It has been a big help to me. Thank you. Look, I don't disbelieve in anything greater than me. I know there's things I can't understand. There's forces I can't comprehend, things I'm blind to. Even just when you look at the spectrum of ultraviolet light, the amount of things we can't see with your human eye, logically speaking, there's things I can't perceive as well. There's things that are greater than me that might see me and I don't see them. Not to say that they're a big bearded guy that sees me. I don't sort of need to reference them as a human being, but I'm not stupid enough to discount that there's not something greater than me. I know I'm not God. So thank you anyway. But yeah, I'm more agnostic than an atheist or a non-theist, as Christopher Hitchens would say, to clarify the definition. Smear, have you ever been attracted to some type of ideology or groupthink, or did you have difficulty fitting in even as a young human? I always have difficulty. I was always an individual, a creative, wanting to figure things out, asking why. Initially, I felt more comfortable with labeling myself MGTOW in the early years because guys were having these kind of conversations. They weren't trying to debate each other. They respected each other's position and voice, but we were all trying to learn from each other and throw our hat into the ring of saying, how about this in terms of nature and women and the life of men and what we have to contend with in the world out there. And it was almost like the publishing field where you had different authors who were published and none of us were trying to kill each other or censor each other or trying to bury each other. We'd go to conferences and befriend each other and shake each other's hand and learn from each other, have conversations together. That's what it was. Different points of view, different writers. Now it's just all corners of the manosphere, given the environment, I'd say, it's a reaction to the environment, has become very dogmatic and religious. It used to be more philosophical and more novelistic, like different writers imparting thoughts and stories and ideas that were really, really potent. I mean, aside from myself, just take a look at Spetsnaz's new documentary. Just look at some of the guys. If you can find some of the older videos, look at the difference between them and the content some of the newer generation are producing. And I'm not saying the newer generation don't have their standouts. Some newer guys are really good. Like you've got Sunrise Hoodie. You've got Kingy's good. You've got a couple of others. I can't think of them. I'll be wasting too much time trying to remember. But the vast majority of content creators back when MGTOW was more respectful and you kind of knew what it was about, you know how it was different to everything else. It wasn't pickup artistry. It wasn't trying to fight for political rights or laws. It was solely intellectual, philosophical interest about how a man thinks and what he can do as an individual and how responsible he can be. Just a big difference if you look at Spetsnaz's recent documentary, and if you can find some of those older standouts. So, which European countries are better to live in and working as a man with less gynocentric laws? Not sure. I remember one or two guys on Discord I talked to, which, by the way, guys, don't be afraid to drop in if I'm not there. There's a lot of guys that drop in and have these kind of conversations. But some of them have mentioned a few countries that they're looking to move to. I think a good calibrator is something Stardust told me is basically move to a country where they don't speak English. You're less likely to have the West's gynocentric values adopted there. It's not always a guarantee. You look at Sweden, but generally that's the case. Make your questions stand out with a lot of emojis, guys, if you can. Do you have Armored Ghost, do you have a favorite laptop screen size? Favorite? Whatever I can get. I'm lucky enough now, I hadn't splurged on anything big in over a year or two, before about a month or so ago. I bought myself a 42-inch widescreen. Which I'm looking at now. So when I look left and right, it's not 2 or 3 monitors. It's just one big widescreen, which is great. I've got my camera in the middle. I've got one screen on one side, another on another, and I put a browser in the middle if I'm watching stuff. Oh, laptop size, sorry. 17-inch. Lodestar Human, what would you include in the I'm not like all the other girls starter pack? Ask them about their past, how they broke up. Ask them a question like, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? A self-important woman would find that question very hard because they think they're perfect. They've never had to look at themselves. There's a few sort of tests for psychopathy as well that you can look up. Ask them scenarios and see what their answer is. And sometimes you can kind of glean a bit of their personality traits that they don't want to admit. But basically, ask as many questions as you can, because a lot of guys, what they don't do is ask questions because they think, I don't want her to go away. Don't talk about relationships. Don't talk about religion. You end up talking about chit chat that means effing nothing. What's the point? I'm trying to get to know you, whether you're someone I want to let into my life. And also, even if it's just something casual, someone casual as a fling could, if they're a psychotic person, if they're a really awful personality, they can ruin you for the rest of your life as well. So either way, ask her everything. Don't hold stuff back. Be honest. Whatever you want to ask, ask. Find out about her past. Find out about her personality. See what her limits in anger are. If she can take a joke, how political she is. Do you align with it? Just ask her everything. I think the problem is guys avoid a lot of questions that they'd openly just talk about with their friends. Just, now I'm just being open. People used to tell me that was a bad trait I had, that I went on a lot of dates. They didn't go anywhere when I was younger because I just talked about everything. You know, I shouldn't be talking about A, B, and C. But as I got older, they said, like, no, that was a smart thing to do in retrospect. So I naturally had that instinct because I'm very talkative and inquisitive and intellectually curious. And, you know, I'm asking why, but how come? But so do you mean that because of A, B, and C, you think this? I want to know. And it's not because I'm trying to figure out if they're a girlfriend material. I'm just naturally curious. Because of that natural curiosity, I got to see those things and go, oh, okay, that's an odd answer. And then you become aware of, oh, why am I feeling odd? Oh, it's because this doesn't match. That's when you become, or you relate to your own psychology. You don't ignore yourself. You don't ignore her. But if you're ignoring her, you're ignoring yourself. You're just jumping off a cliff. Alpha, would you talk more about your video on grief after a relationship ends? Was someone still impacted 12 years later? Yeah. In the video, I don't think it was you, Alpha Dog, that I quoted. Yeah, someone was still impacted 12 years later. The degree to which you are is different, but I know that, like, as I mentioned, you know, about regret. Sometimes it pops into my head about that past relationship, and I regret the way I acted. Some guys have worse things. If you have kids involved, if you really reacted badly, you treated someone awfully, and you know it wasn't you. I probably will, if a topic around it comes up that I can form into a video. Usually my videos come up where I feel like there's a really sharp point I want to talk about, and then I can talk about a few things around it. And yeah, I will, about holding on to a lot of stuff even after a relationship has happened, because you're trying to figure out a lot of things that went wrong, and it's hard. And some guys like to be a bit too zen about it and say, well, just let go. But if you're not dealing with it, you're pretending it's not there. You're avoiding the shit on the carpet and walking around it all the time and going, I can't smell anything. I'm just not going to look in that direction. But you've always got to spend time in that room. QTR, Oga, and Corgi. Having conversations with other people challenges your own theories, which allows you to improve on your own way of thinking. Exactly. You can't really test anything if there's nothing to test it against. That's a brilliant thought. Is there any way I can highlight this? I want to highlight this. I don't know how to highlight this comment. Anyway, OTR, thank you for that. That's a great comment. I want to highlight it. If you're not open to other people's opinions, if you can't civilly talk, not debate, but talk, not debate from a position of I'm right and I want to beat you, but I really think I know this and these are my ethics and morals. I want to talk about them with you. Oh, you think something different? Interesting. Tell me why. Back that up and I'll try and back myself up, and be open to refining and sharpening yourself. You walk away being a better person, and you walk away with humility. You walk away being able to have conversations with anyone. You're not scared to have conversations with anyone because you're not afraid of changing your mind or being proven wrong. There's really no downsides other than to your ego. Real names not given. Pancakes versus waffles. Pancakes every time. Every time. Especially European ones. They're really thin and big. They're the size of pizzas, but they're very thin. I'm not a fan of the Western big thick ones with maple syrup. I'm a fan of the Eastern European size big pancakes they look like flatbread, but they're pancakes, and you basically put jam along them, you roll them up and you eat them like a very thin kebab. They're like crepes, really. Love them. I don't know when to stop. I think I could have about 15 of them pretty easily before I'd say, yeah, that's enough. Which is why I don't have them very often, and I don't remind my mother or sister to make them. Okay, guys. Alpha Dog, thank you for the comment. Actually, no. Alpha Dog, thank you for the comment. The comments keep jumping up all the time. So I'm sorry if I've missed a few questions. I'm getting better at this. I swear it. I'm getting better at this. If it just stopped jumping, I try and highlight the questions. So even if it jumps, I can go back and see where I've highlighted with my cursor. Okay, I'm back. Armored Ghost. Is black human's favorite color? Probably. I'm a neutral kind of person. Because I'm a graphic designer, audio-visual kind of person, I'm into it. I'm very aware of the story I'm conveying when I write, as well as the visual story. So I'm aware of the color I wear in comparison to the background, my glasses. Call it being anally retentive, but for instance, when I do videos that are in a dark room, when I shoot videos at night in my studio with just like a light in my face and it's very moody, you could tell it's at night in the dark, I'll probably wear a light colored top, gray or white, to contrast me from the background. This because there's a lot of sunlight, but mostly because my wardrobe is very dark to neutral gray. I have very little bright colors at all. Basically timeless. I don't like shopping. I don't like changing fashion. I've got pairs of jeans that'll last me forever. I've got white t-shirts. I've got black t-shirts. I've got grey t-shirts, and very little of anything in between. Drew, was there ever a moment where the red pill saved your life? Yeah, there were probably a few videos, especially when I was going through a massive midlife self-reflection in my early 40s, where I basically said, like, I'm not repeating the merry-go-round of my past. I have to really figure out what doesn't work anymore, because a lot of what doesn't work kept kicking me in the ass, going through the same patterns. And I started to figure out, am I really happy, or am I just feeling familiar? I wanted to be better, not just to change for change's sake, because sometimes people go, oh, just change, try something different. You're trying to find familiar feelings in something different, which is you're just trying to recreate old patterns and feelings. So are you happy or content, or are you just feeling familiar? Find out what doesn't fit anymore. The wardrobe analogy. What can you throw out? Get rid of it. Go minimal. I went minimalist in my life. I wiped away everything and only put back what was necessary. That's a good way to look at things, and that's a good way to approach things, I think. Sensibly. Not going to be completely alone, get rid of your family for no reason, or get rid of anyone you care about, or get rid of water and shelter because you're going to be on the street. But generally, the things you know you can take a risk on and get rid of them, because that's a good test. Do you really value them that much? Do the pastimes and things you value really mean as much if you're prepared to throw them away forever? Will they come back because they're meaningful? Thank you for the super chat, Alpha Dog. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. All you regular donators, super chatters, especially a lot of you guys that comment in the comments section, keep the conversation going here and otherwise. I really, really do appreciate it. It keeps me producing videos. And even though YouTube's, at times making it hard for me, I'm trying my best. But the more you guys can kind of show your appreciation and tip me a drink saying, I'll get this one, the more I'll say, I'll get the next one in the form of a video. So thanks, guys. And if you can afford it, you don't need to. But I appreciate the donations and the super chats. So let's keep it all going. Derek, exactly, man. I'd love to hear Human's explanation. Explanation for what? I'm sorry if I missed some of these questions, but the chat keeps flicking up depending on how many questions, and then it refreshes and just dumps a whole bunch and flicks the thing forward. So highlight them with a whole bunch of emojis before and after, and I'll try and scroll and have a look and see if I can find them. Luke, Black Pill is about destroying the Matrix. Some people, they destroy themselves as well. What if you're destroying the wrong thing? What if you think you're unplugged and then you're destroying the Matrix, but you're still plugged in and you destroy yourself? I don't know. You can kind of go forever with these analogies. I don't have anything against the Black Pill per se, because a lot of what they observe is actually real. You can't disagree when they say, well, this I observe in the world, or the world is like this, or the world is meaningless, or A, B, and C. It's like, okay, I can't argue with that. But for myself, I also know that what I get up for in the morning, the will to bring out videos and be enthusiastic about certain things in life and whatever, if I was completely black-pilled, I wouldn't be able to sort of be who I am. Now, if you call that convenient solipsism or convenient delusion, so be it. But I'd like to think of it as glass half full, not glass half empty. Okay, we've been going for about an hour now. Some good questions, guys. Throw your last questions at me. Let's hit the home stretch. Alpha Dog, it wasn't me you quoted, but I still do carry a wound. Yeah. That's the thing. A lot of us, to a degree, either it's a dull ache that never quite goes away, or it pops up again, like herpes. So it's not always there. Where am I up to? All right. Which is the best platform to create MGTOW content without fear of censorship? The biggest platforms have the most censorship. That's just the way the world is. So either you go on bigger platforms and you're a bit more careful, but still trying to get the message out you want to get out and get through to less people, or you go to a smaller platform where you don't have to sort of watch your language and you don't have to slalom around advertising and so forth. So there's give and take, but BitChute's good. There are a couple others, but no one's caught up to anywhere near YouTube. Vimeo's okay, but I still think they're kind of not far behind in terms of political correctness. But they're more a media video kind of content thing. Although I could be wrong. Different kind of platform. I haven't really investigated them much. You heard it here first. Everyone, human likes pancakes. Thin ones. Yep. You heard it here first. Smear beer. Not a big fan of this new generation of chick baity MGTOW channels. But don't you think at least they're waking many guys up? Yeah, they are. When other clickbaity, PUA, you can kind of get a sense with certain channels where they're really, really focused about what women want and trying to navigate women, whereas ones that are more interested in what you think is a man and going down your own path and you as the central focus, while you may want to discuss women in relation to yourself. So you can kind of tell a difference on different channels where their focus is women, and other ones where focus is on the person that's speaking themselves and trying to be better. So you can kind of tell. All of them have their benefits. Like when I first saw PUA years ago, I could see why guys got attracted, that you're still really, really addicted to women because there was a lot of human dynamics, philosophy, social interaction, and you need to introspect in order to relate. So you'd learn a bit about yourself because you wanted women. But now not many people are talking about themselves. It's just about what you can get out of life. I want to get money. I want to get women. I want to get this. I want to get that. No one's really wanting to get themselves anymore. Because from there, then it's easier to get all this other stuff if you want it. If your girlfriend makes awful pancakes, tell her. Yep. I don't think there's anything wrong with just being nicely honest and sympathetic. If a woman asks you for your honest opinion, tell her and be aware of not being cruel about it. If she makes you pancakes and she says, do you like them? And you do, say yes. If you think they're okay, say no, they're okay. If she's concerned and asks why you don't love them, say, oh, my mother makes... I'm used to my mother's. There's tactful ways to let them know what you think. You don't have to be rude, but at least they get the sense of that you're not lying. You're not going to BS them. They feel comfortable. They feel more secure. But if you're kind of always lying to keep them happy, it's no wonder anyone would not kind of trust you if you're just always saying what they want to hear. It's like kissing up to a boss at work because you don't want to lose your job. Yeah, different content for different stages of the process. Exactly, Finch. Damn, I'm going through this stuff at 43. A guy shouldn't feel guilty whatever age they're going through this stuff. There's no point guy my age laughing at a guy who's 18 and going, ha, you know nothing, and dismiss him. What he's feeling is feeling a lot of pain. I probably felt something similar or different. My pain was very real and it was all I knew. And its potency meant a lot and everything to me at that age. What I might be going through at middle age, what a guy who's going through something in the winter years of his life when he's 60 to 80, they're going through what they're going through. So there's no point being dismissive. You're just trying to make yourself feel better by feeling, oh, at least I'm better than that loser, or I'm more mature than that loser. You were that person, maybe, or you will be the person you're making fun of, maybe. but also, why do you need to put someone down? Is wild Australian goat tasty? I have no idea. XMS, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it, man. So XMeast. Alpha Dog, sometimes men do destroy themselves. What would you say to a man on the edge, or us, some men lost? I would try and be this. I would just try and talk with someone, listen to them. The best thing you could do is give someone your conscious attention, not wait to speak, but and that's something I try and do too, especially when I'm having an enthusiastic comment with someone and it's so great and I just want to add something because I'm having so much fun. You can forget that you're not listening, and the conversation, you don't want it just to be about you. I noticed in some of the past conversations I've had in chats, and I didn't mean it, I was having so much fun with the person and it was such a great topic that I was blubbering a lot of nonsense, and forgive me, where I was having a great time with the person and the topic we were talking about. I just wanted to give my piece. But the thing I'm learning most when I get older is learning how to listen and give someone my conscious attention and be respectful. I can learn something, I can listen, but especially guys who are going through a hard time, the best you can do is listen with conscious attention and impart some sort of wisdom, help them think, not tell them what to do, not shame them, not give them the tough love that women would and tell them to man up, unless they're kind of really signaling to you that that's what they want. Most guys aren't, though, if they're in a bad place. Do you think MGTOW is growing? Maybe. Depends what you define it as. Men having enough of women, yeah, that's growing more and more all the time. But that compartment of the internet, I don't know. And what it is seen as at the moment, I don't know. I've been putting some material together and want to start a channel, blah, blah, blah. Ted, best way for people to find it, just start and see if people naturally find it. That's all you can do. That's what most people do. Create a channel, just start producing content. And the beauty is create the first couple of videos that you're pleased with. And the benefit of not actually trying to promote it straight away and seeing if it naturally gets an audience is that you can kind of find your flow and get better at making it, so that by the time it does get an audience, you've got a rhythm of making it, rather than kind of straight away trying to promote something you're kind of a little bit unsure of, haven't got experience in, and then going, yeah, don't watch those first 5 videos or whatever. Let them sort of naturally find their way as well. But just do it. I'd say there's no guarantee of any of this. I never knew what I was doing other than I just wanted to make videos and I thought I could add my 2 cents in. It's making videos is a personal thing for me. It's an open diary and a conversation with other guys. I want to have a conversation with other guys like this in my own way, and I want to do it. No one can tell me I can't, because everyone else seems to have the permission, especially like some 18-year-old bimbo who's only put out 5 videos and has 500,000 subscribers and is retired now and making $250,000 a month. If she can do it, I can at least talk and say what I want. Just do it because you want to. Because it's more or less a creative exercise. This creates a lot of work and effort, and if you're not doing it just because you want to and no one can stop you, then there's really no point. You might as well just have a day job. Not that this is any kind of a job for me. Finch, a Spetsnaz quote, if you don't make use of the pain, then you have wasted your suffering. Exactly. So, Anne, how do you plan to spend the last few days of your life, living old and single? Hopefully, if I live honestly, I'll have good people around me. See, there's no guarantee. A lot of people think there's a guarantee if you have children that they'll be at your bedside. A lot of kids move away. They never see their parents. They move to another country, even if they love their parents. In partnership, one of you always leaves and dies first. So either someone dies or someone leaves first. There's no guarantees. On balance, I'd rather just be honest. If I'm going to be with someone, I'd be with someone based on my virtues and morals and ethics, because it feels right. I'm not going to tolerate an awful life just so at the very end I've got people around me that are crying just so I can feel good about myself. That's me. You might say I'm avoiding the issue, but how do I plan to spend it? Just doing what I'm doing now. Whatever I'm doing in the future, I'll be doing that. Paragon, you haven't said that YouTube phrase, hit that like button and remember to hit that like button. Subscribe, guys. Remember to subscribe. Thanks, Paragon. I kind of say it to sort of, because my numbers are going down, but there's more people coming on board. More people engaging, more people coming into the live streams, more comments. But I see that every month or so, I get overnight 100 people exactly drop off, 150, 200 people. And then a lot of people are just conveniently deleted in massive chunks for no reason. And I've actually been more productive in the last few months, and it just kind of keeps dropping. So it doesn't kind of make sense. And from what I've researched, because they conveniently unsubscribe a lot of people, a lot of guys say, I was subscribed, I hit the bell icon, and now I check back and I realize you've released 5 or 6 videos and I wasn't notified. And I look and I wasn't subscribed, but I know definitely that I've kept subscribing and that keeps unsubscribing me. That's why I say they want you for, I know it's painful, they want you actively giving me attention in the terms of not just like ads so they can sell, because if I don't put ads on, again, they put me, they cut me off as well. So I tried to put a minimum amount of ads at the front, so that they go, oh, this channel has ads and these videos have ads. We'll put him up a little bit higher because he's actually doing something for us. He's serving ads for us. These people, they haven't clicked on ads for a while. We'll get rid of a big chunk of them. So that's why I keep saying, keep subscribing, not because I'm trying to be egotistical, because I need anything, but it's kind of like I want to kind of keep this going. I want it to grow so I can talk to more of you guys, so it's worth it for everyone, for me. But if it keeps tanking and no one's watching, no one's contributing, there's less and less of a conversation, and there's no growth in my channel because of what I value, then it's pointless. But the point is, I ask you guys to subscribe, support me, and do all those things just to kind of plant flags for the algorithm, for YouTube, for the advertisers. So we're alive, I'm alive, the channel's alive, and I can keep speaking and have more of a chance to sort of communicate with you guys. That's the main thing. Human SB26, what are your experience with older women, say 35 plus? Are they just as or more fickle, colder compared to they're all the same. Very few change. In the same way, you look at, you guys are trying to find the unicorn when they're in 20s. When you're older, you're trying to find the unicorn just in personality. Aside from her, I don't want her to be a couch walrus, but as long as she's kind of fit and healthy, I just look for a decent personality. That's my bar. And apparently it's too high. I'm looking for a personality to the degree to which I would even consider having some kind of part-time relationship with a woman, that you can't even get a nice person that's civil and respectful. You just keep getting this from when they're teenagers to when they die, because they don't feel guilt. They don't want to admit when they're wrong. If women could somehow magically hide the kids they had and pretend to be single and free and never have had kids, they'd lie and say, oh, I've never had children. They don't change much. They still want what they want. To them, it's relationships are something that they get stuff from, that is like this funnel, a one-way street of feeling good of good feelings that you give them through things you do, places you take them, holidays, outings. I've been watching a lot of more black and white old movies because the stories are better, they're made better. I watched one last night on, was it on SBS? On the app, on my TV. It was called A Brief Encounter. You guys in Melbourne, in Australia, if you can have a watch of that. That was really nicely made in a black and white movie. It's a story of a woman that she has a little fling with a guy on her train trip when she goes out during the week for her tea and coffee and catch up with friends. She meets a stranger and they fall in love. It doesn't show them sleeping together, but this was back in the black and white era. It's kind of like they fell in love very respectfully, honestly, and all this kind of stuff. And and they were talking about it's wrong, and they kept saying it's wrong, and they broke it off. But where was I going with this? What was the older women that they're still fickle. They want to be made to feel well. And the thing that made me laugh in that movie is she was romanticizing about what love was to her with this affair she's having. And she said in the movie, I'm paraphrasing, she said, I would imagine scenarios of our future, living with this person, being with this person, us driving up the coast, us on the bow of a cruise ship looking over the ocean, us at a restaurant looking over the ocean in Italy. It's just basically these romantic scenarios that they can see themselves in: wine, champagne, dancing. And you contrast that with the husband that she's having that she's cheating on. She sits at home with this man that she loves, and they just sit at home and talk on the couch. But her idea of romance and love is wild adventures with this man, going on trips and cruises and dancing and dinners, and women just have that hardwiring. Maybe it's similar to the sex hardwiring for men. We get really titillated by that. Women get titillated by that romantic external doing and all that horse shit. Whereas I actually find romance just sitting at home, like the relationship this woman was having an affair from. I am in complete contentment just sitting at home, just sitting around doing nothing. That's kind of love for me. Love for me isn't dancing and cruise ships and wild roller coasters. That's fun you can do every now and then. That's a nice adventure, but that's not the pedestrian side of the life I want to have with a woman. Seems like another job. Might be enjoyable from time to time, but another job, a lot of energy. Okay, guys, let's wrap this up then. I'll just go through the last remaining questions, especially if there's any super chats. I always feel guilty when I switch it off and the delay just shows me that I missed the question. Yeah, YouTube notifications are really fickle, but it's convenient how I keep getting the same notifications for ads and shows that are very mainstream, and you can tell they want me to watch, and everyone's getting those feeds, especially like daytime talk shows. Why am I being force-fed them and I don't even want to click on them, but yet I get them all the time? It used to be a lot better when you'd get fed what you actually wanted to watch. You know, I click on these. This is what I'm interested in. And specifically these channels, I want to know exactly and always when they bring a video out. Nah. Yeah, thanks for kind of telling us what you want, but we'll give you what we want. It's kind of having like a relationship with a woman. YouTube is the only relationship in town if you want to communicate like this. You have to put up with it. Can't even have a relationship with other men. Whether you have to put up with a bad relationship with which to have a relationship with other men. All right, guys, I think we'll wrap it up there. It looks like we're pretty done. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do it another time soon. Yeah, and it'll be up live. Yeah, subscribe, and support, and thanks for supporting my channel, and thanks to you guys supporting me by logging on, the super chats. Yeah, and I'll be back.